What trends are ahead for solar energy? Our team is traveling through Oregon to talk to experts, community leaders, and everyday citizens about the solar revolution.
Sounds good. I'm Derek DeBoer. I'm the owner here at TC Chevrolet in Ashland, Oregon.
Fantastic. And we're talking about your solar array here. When did you get that installed?
Yeah, aren't they cool? It's only been about a year since these have been installed. Jeff with Stracker, he's the creator of these, and we've been talking about doing solar for quite a while, and when he came and presented these, it sort of was just a no-brainer. There are so many benefits to these, it's hard to rattle them all off. I mean, for me, there was everything from being green and kind of putting our money where our mouth is. I'd also been wanting to put a carport in the front line here to create some shade for the cars. They happen to do that. And then as far as the solar and the green side goes, they create almost 50 to 70% more power than just putting solar panels on the roof. So we're actually far ahead of even Jeff's projections as far as when they'll pay off. Saying somewhere between 3 and 5 years we'll be ahead of the game from what we spent. So they're pretty impressive.
Rolling on that one, rolling on that one, just to sync them all up.
You've done this before.
Oh yes.
Solar collection is clean, it's quiet, accessible for most people in our culture, and it can be hooked directly up to distribution grids. The solar industry has come a long ways. Price is 1/10 of what they used to be. The production that we're getting out of our panels is greater. We have a lot of people coming to us wanting to go net zero, wanting to be able to offset all of their electricity bills or their energy bills. The Stracker units are a pretty bold testimony to the owner's commitment to technology, renewable energy, and helping address the climate situation we're in.
So the photovoltaic principle is basically we create a situation where the silicon can accept certain wavelength of the sun and create electron movement. So with the electron that is moving inside the material, then you convert it into power.
The solar industry is on a really hot path, and trajectory is steeper than any of us expected. And it is really being fueled right now by the federal tax incentives. So the people that have tax equity are jumping on board.
There's tax credits for energy efficiency, there's tax credits for heat pumps, there's tax credits for solar, up to 30% of the cost, which is pretty dramatic.
With some elevated structure. With our conventional solar panel, as you can see already in the solar farm,
Stracker Solar, based in Ashland, was founded on a desire to keep the land occupied by solar generators open to other uses.
Started in the solar industry back in 1976 with my dad. We put breadbox water heaters on roofs in the San Joaquin Valley. We started Stracker in 2016 after working in California under their Proposition 39 program to help Northern California schools start renewable energy programs. We were installing a 6-Stracker installation down in Grenada Elementary in Northern California using dual-axis trackers from All Earth Renewables, and we were really impressed that we were actually seeing 70% greater energy gain using the same panels. At the same time, we saw that we were having to fence off large areas of the school grounds to be able to do these installations. And that's when the light bulb came on that, if we can pole mount these things and make them robust enough, we won't need fencing below and we can maintain these playing fields down below. So we started designing and testing a pole-mounted structure here locally at Oak Street Tank and Steel and developed what's now become the Stracker system. It is becoming the premier elevated dual-axis tracking system in the country. Strackers are the most efficient solar harvesters available anywhere right now. They produce 50 to 70% more energy than fixed arrays, and they open up a whole new array of installation areas that were otherwise previously unopened to solar.
For instance, you see your current solar farm installations, massive expanses of solar farms, just all these fences and you can't access anything. The Oregonian in me, I'm like, man, what about all the animals? What about how the animal's going to get through, or what about natural habitats or whatever? You have to protect it from other people, which means fencing. Well, when you have a solar panel 20 feet in the air with no access to it, unless you have a bucket truck, you forego the need for fencing. There's no safety hazards or anything really to concern yourself with the fence about. You're not disturbing natural habitat. The animals that are native to the area still have free access to do whatever they need to do, go where they need to go. And you have this massive energy production monster over your head. These are being installed in this parking lot, and you have a 650 square foot solar array above your head, but you only have a 3 square foot footprint that's being taken up from our foundation.
The utility solar market has set the bar for what is the best way to generate electricity, what is the most cost-effective way to do that. Originally, those large fields of solar panels that you saw 20 years ago were fixed mount solar. And that has given way over the last 20 years to single axis tracking because they could get 30% up to 40% more power than the fixed panels. So as fixed solar transitioned to single axis tracking, so shall single axis tracking evolve into dual axis tracking. We maximize the amount of solar that can be gotten out of any particular solar panel. And by doing that, we reduce the number of panels we need to produce and the waste associated with those panels 30 years down the road. Dual-axis trackers tried to compete with single-axis trackers back in the 70s when utility solar was starting to take root. Because it was a race to the bottom for the cheapest way to get things in the ground, corners were cut, and dual-axis trackers earned a poor reputation in the industry. What we've done with Strackers is, just in the last few years, the material strengths, the manufacturing tolerances, and the control systems have finally got to a place where we can put a robust tracker that we know will be able to handle 120-mile-an-hour winds on the top of a 20-foot pole.
Pretty multi-purpose shop right here. Their primary purpose is doing steel tanks and whatnot, but we have partnered with them for the last 6 or 7 years. These are some components right here. These are our axle tubes, which is basically like the main structural component that holds the rest of our arrays above it. These guys rotate to follow the sun. We got these guys welding up drive cores right here right now. This is basically step one of the fabrication process. After we get our material, they obviously need to fabricate it, and then we have to get it sent off to get painted just so it can withstand the test of time. We use American-made steel, which is really strong, but as you know, steel rusts, so we got to make sure it's protected from the elements all the time. This is just some more raw steel right here. It's going to be our Stracker main beams, the C-beams that are, again, holding our array. What you're looking at right here is what that gentleman over there is actually welding. It's your piece that gives everything movement. It's probably our ugliest Stracker just because these are our prototypes and stuff, and we have some extra gear attached to that one so we can actually monitor it as it goes, but you still get the basic idea of what they look like when they're moving,
In the morning, as the sun's rising, the Stracker tilts and turns to face the exact spot that the sun is rising. And then throughout the day, by rotating on its two axes, both its tilt and its azimuth, it follows and keeps its entire solar array perpendicular to the sun. So it's getting the absolute most power it can get all day long.
Each unit has a GPS antenna and a GPS card in it so it knows where it's at. Using that in conjunction with a special program that's actually written by the government as far as tracking the sun goes, it knows exactly where the sun's going to be out throughout the day, and every 7 minutes it corrects itself so it's perfectly perpendicular with the sun. And it's guaranteed to be within 0.1 degrees of the sun at all times throughout the day until it goes to bed at night.
When it goes to bed at night, that's when it goes into its stow position again?
Yeah, so our systems know when sunrise is and when sunset is. So when the sun comes up in the morning, they're going to be flat. But then when that sun comes up, it wakes up and meets the sun first thing in the morning, follows it throughout the day, and then once it's down past the horizon, it once again goes flat and orients itself in proper stow position for the evening. All of our installs, we keep stow switches on our units so that for whatever reason, they need to get underneath it or need the clearance, they have the ability to actually put our units in a flat stow mode. Push it and wait a couple seconds, and then she starts moving. It's not a fast process. I mean, obviously, when you're dealing with this much weight, you have really high torque or high ratioed motors, so it's like 280 to 1 as far as the gearing and the slews go, but it makes for a nice, smooth, efficient movement that's pretty much impervious to the influences of wind or whatever outside forces don't want it to move. Very reliable, super low maintenance. We grease them once a year. They've been doing great. There's an anemometer on top of each unit. We have a program in them to where if the wind goes over a certain speed, we have them set at 25 miles an hour. It detects it and automatically goes flat. It won't raise again until it's detected 30 minutes without a high-speed wind gust. So try to build a little bit of safety into the systems just because, you don't want to spend a bunch of money on a solar array and have your investment get ruined by the weather. So you're going to put something on the weather, it's got to withstand it.
The arrays themselves are about 28 foot wide by 24 foot tall. We have up to 15 kilowatts worth of solar panels we can put on that.
These are the Z-Shine Solar 450 bifacial panels. We're actually putting these on a job right now. We got to come and pick this box up a little bit later. I'd open it more, but just going to make it harder for us in transportation. We do have an active job site going, and if you guys would like, you're more than welcome to follow me on over and watch me tell people what to do.
Yeah, by all means, let's go.
Well, we're pretty excited about our local clients. We have TC Chevy, that was our first retail dealership installation, car dealership. Franz Bakery is using us for their distribution center, intend to use us elsewhere. We have Ashland Family Dentistry and Cullen Beck Enterprises that have turned their systems into net zero medical offices.
Yes, I'm a dentist here in town, and we built these in 2020 to power the office. In 2010, we decided to look into solar, but we couldn't ever make enough power to power that building. It burns about 5,800 kilowatts a month. So there was no technology at the time. Stracker meets that need. So here we are.
Is a dentist office like more power demanding than other types of businesses?
Well, we have 2 servers and 40 computers, so yes. And we have a lot of pumps and compressors, so they use a lot of power.
So this is, we call it the Service Center 6. This is for the city of Ashland. We were awarded a grant earlier last year to get this all done. This project is going to showcase 6 of our Strackers right here in this parking lot. With the addition of a massive battery backup system and 2 level 3 EVCS units, electric vehicle charging stations. Level 3, it's good as you can get, just shy of a Tesla supercharger. It's a 120 kilowatt charging system. So it's going to be a big showcase project, for the city of Ashland.
So what are we looking at here?
So we call this flying the array. So down on the ground on the racks, we work and wire up all the modules, connect everything, make sure it's all working properly, and then we set the poles, get those level, bolt tighten down, and then we pick up the whole array, bolt it to the top. Next stage is we'll hook up the wires at the top of the pole. We already have our underground wiring in and commission that, and then we're just set. Once we power up, she'll start flying.
Fantastic.
Start working.
Nice. Is it a challenging process?
We're getting it down. It's fun.
Nice.
Jeff's a good friend of ours. And hopefully we'll put some Strackers in some of our projects as well for projects where you don't have the ability to put ground mounts. His system is very, very good. It's just a matter of trying to make sure that the pricing and cost benefit analysis for the users is really there. What you don't want to do is having a system that costs so much money that people never see their payback.
I paid $110,000 for them, so $55,000 each, which is 26 kilowatts of power, and they will be paid off essentially in 5 years of the payback with the tax credits.
Tracker is easily one of the important area in solar PV implementation. Tracker is expensive, but I think just like with any other technology, once it's fully developed, then there will be mass produced, then it will make economic sense.
It's a big nut.
If everything's good in the supply chain and we're not backed up on other projects, don't have anything to wait for, realistically, from the time we get an order to the time we can have it all manufactured, you're looking at about a month from order to manufacturing. And then once we get out here, if there's one Stracker, we're in and out in 2 days, like completely. It depends, and it looks like we're about to be extremely backlogged with manufacturing. So,
Have new orders for this stuff ramped up?
Yes, and we have a lot of big things in the works. Don't want to count our chickens before the eggs have hatched, but yes, orders have picked up. We have another 6-pack going up here in Ashland here in mid-December. So the pace has definitely picked up, and with what we have on the horizon, it's going to be very crazy.
And we're pretty excited about the national expansion that we're in right now. We've got some large installations planned for microprocessor chip up in the Portland area, some tribal installations lined out. We're talking to some large mega churches back east that have acres of parking lots they'd like to cover, and several of the universities from Southern California all the way to Minnesota.
Well, I think Stracker is totally cool. They're taking a different approach in terms of their installations. Stracker is going to make an imprint regionally and probably across the country. But I track their success just by looking at the number of Stracker poles that I see around the community. What I mostly hope is that Stracker stays in Southern Oregon as they expand and go off to the rest of the world.
Well, Jeff seemed like a very Ashland guy.
Yeah.
So I hope he stays around too.
Some of the core technologies, the actuators and the control systems, I think will still be produced here in Southern Oregon. But we will be fabricating the bulk of the steel structure, the poles, the frames, the rails, in shops that are local to where the installation's going. And by doing that, we bring a measure of economic development, community development to each of the communities that we serve. Apprenticeship programs are going to be a big piece of everything that we do. And we're really working and committed to provide living wage jobs for all of our employees and associates.
How many people across all of your activity do you think you employ?
We have about 10 people here locally, and we have subcontractors all over the place.
The potential for this, just once what word gets out to the appropriate places, it's industry upsetting potential. It's a very, very amazing product. I believe in it 100%.
I'm believing that climate change is the toughest issue of our time, and believing that if we come together as a culture with our policies and with our expectations, we're going to be able to turn this thing around.
The future is that solar panel will not just be flat and put on the rooftop. It will be everywhere.
Some people will say, you're doing this because you're trying to help with the climate, right? And try to remove yourselves from fossil fuels. Well, that's true, but if you can also prove that whatever you're doing is financially beneficial, money seems to convince a lot of people. Wherever they stand on the spectrum of climate change, money will always be one of those things that will say, well, tell me more.
You don't have to identify as being progressive politically to understand what the benefit of having solar that's flowing in and providing your own electricity and reflecting on your energy bills is going to have for your operation, whether it's a home or a business.
Glad that I'm here in the beginning stages of it, just watch it take off. We're on the launch pad, completely fueled up, just waiting for that countdown, and it's starting.
I still am hopeful that we will have a grassroots movement that will get us there for people like your sake. I mean, some of us are already past our prime, but for younger people, for younger generations, we have to do this.
I think it's just such a good way to push boundaries and show that, if we all play our part, we can rewire America and have a much better, more sustainable way of living.
I'm believing as a culture and as a species, we're going to be able to make those changes, and that we're going to come together and set the policies to get this on the right track while there's still time. We're talking to some large mega churches back east that have acres of parking lots they'd like to cover, and several of the universities from Southern California all the way to Minnesota.
Well, I think Stracker is totally cool. They're taking a different approach in terms of their installations. Stracker is going to make an imprint regionally and probably across the country.